Hi, Red Hawks. This is Mrs. Higgins. I am not going to have my video camera on today because it's not cooperating. It's not matching my voice with my video. So I will just be talking to you today. This week, you'll only have one lesson with me because it was a short week due to Labor Day on Monday. So you'll just be doing a library lesson this week. Our essential questions for today are: how are nonfiction books arranged in the library? Remember last week we talked about poetry and where poetry could be found in the Dewey Decimal System. And today we're going to talk about where we find some other books. We're also going to be looking at how do nonfiction writers make the text more interesting and easier to understand. Some people really like to read nonfiction, and some people really don't care to read nonfiction. So nonfiction writers have tried really hard to find ways to make nonfiction more inviting and more appealing to people. And we're going to talk about some ways that authors do that. Our learning targets for today are: I can understand how nonfiction is organized in the library, and I can analyze and create a diagram with labels. So I can analyze and create diagrams. So number one is to watch this video. Number two is you're going to be drawing a diagram. And we're going to talk about what a diagram is and what labels are today. And then to turn it in, you're going to actually take a photograph of what you draw and turn it in. And I'm going to show you how to do that with your devices. So I chose this quote for today: take the risk or lose the chance, because I think of skateboarding as taking a risk. And kind of an interesting way to think about whether or not to take a risk. Take the risk or lose the chance. I guess for me, it's balance the two. Do you mind losing the chance? I don't mind losing the chance when it comes to skateboarding. I am not very good at going fast. Of course, I involve going fast. I think skateboarding would be a little too extreme for me. But I know that some of you probably do skateboard. So something to think about when you're looking at things in life: take the risk or lose the chance. And that's a little intro into our book. We're going to use a skateboarding book to talk about diagrams today. So here's our visual of the Dewey Decimal System. I'd like you to make a prediction. Where would you find a book about skateboarding? So remember, the Dewey Decimal System is by number. It's also by topic. Each number is associated with a topic. So looking through these topics, which one would you guess would have a book about skateboarding? And I'm going to give you a moment to look. So when you look through those topics, the one that would have a book about skateboarding is the 700s, arts and recreation. Okay, recreation is something that you do for fun, something you do to entertain yourself. Have you ever been to a rec center? It's that short for recreation center, which means you go there to do things that are fun. Okay, so we went to the 700s in the library, we would find books about games, hobbies, crafts, and sports. If you were to go to our 700s in the Mary C. Williams Library, you'd find 5 to 6 books about skateboarding in there. Just a reminder that the Dewey Decimal System is for nonfiction books. And just so we're all on the same page, okay, let's break that word up a little bit. Nonfiction, it has the prefix non. Non means not, and fiction means made up. So if we combine those two together, nonfiction means not made up. So fiction books are true books. They're based on facts. They're based on things that have been proven, or things that do not change, or were true at the time they were written anyway. So people would have different answers for these questions. Is nonfiction hard? Is nonfiction boring? But as I mentioned earlier, nonfiction writers use techniques and tools and tricks to make these answers no. They use things to try to make nonfiction easier to understand, and they do things to try to make nonfiction more interesting. Okay, and those things are called text features. I'm going to show you the power of text features in the next 2 slides. So here is a paragraph I wrote about text features. I told you the purpose of text features. I told you what we're going to do and which text features we're going to look at. This is a standard paragraph. Okay, would you rather learn from this standard paragraph or learn from this slide? Okay, believe it or not, these 2 slides basically contain the same information. The difference is this is a standard paragraph, it's in black and white, and this slide is using multiple text features to make it more interesting and to make it easier to understand the information. So a text feature could be as simple as changing the color of the font, changing the size of the font, changing what font you use. It can also be things like including a photo or an illustration. And also, like we're going to focus on today, a diagram is a type of text feature. It does make it more interesting, but diagrams really are there to help us understand what the author is talking about. I understand the parts of a skateboard much better by looking at this diagram than I would if this was all written in a paragraph form. I can see it, I can visualize those different parts now. All right, so we're going to focus on diagrams today and labels. A diagram is a detailed picture showing how something works. So for example, this diagram is showing the phases of the moon. And those are created based on where the moon is in accordance with the sun. This diagram has a picture of the Earth, and then it also includes labels. So they've labeled the North and South Pole. A label is when you name the specific parts on a diagram or an image. If I were to put labels on this picture, I could name the different phases. Oh, sorry. I could name the different phases of the moon and put labels on there, and I'd have a diagram. So it would be a detailed picture with labels. So how do they help me as a reader? Well, like I said in the last slide, they help you visualize what the author's talking about. They help you see it in your head. The labels help you understand new vocabulary. So if you didn't know what a deck was on a skateboard, seeing it in a diagram might help you understand what a deck is. And labels help you better comprehend what the author is talking about by showing you what the name of each part is. All right, so here's our book that we're going to be using today. We're not going to read the whole book. We're using, a lot of times when you do nonfiction, you use it for a purpose. And a lot of times that purpose isn't to read it front to back, unless you really like the topic and you're interested in it. A lot of times you're trying to find certain information. Well, I was trying to find a book to teach you about diagrams, and this book fit the bill. So we're using the book Skateboarding by Matt Godin to explore diagrams. So here is a diagram from the book. And this is rare, but they actually even told you, hey, this is a diagram. So here's a diagram of a skate park. So what they did is they took a photograph of a skate park and they labeled the different parts that are commonly found in a skate park. Now, if you don't skateboard or don't go to skate parks to work on tricks and use these things, you probably wouldn't know what these things are called. I've heard of a ramp before, but a jump ramp, a slide rail, quarter pipe ramps, a fun box. That's definitely expanding my vocabulary. I did not know all of those things were called that, or even that they existed. And if someone had just said, oh, well, the quarter pipe ramp, blah, 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 and just put it in words, it wouldn't help me visualize it as well as having a picture to look at does. Here's another example of a diagram from the book. This one only had 2 labels, so I added a couple of more. But it's a diagram of a skateboard, and they've labeled the different parts of the skateboard. help you understand and visualize those specific parts. Obviously, we know what the wheel was. The part that you stand on is called the deck. The part that connects the axle and wheels to the board is called your truck. And the back end that flips up a little bit is called your tail. And there's lots of other parts to a skateboard too, but it helps you to understand those parts. And I included this page to help you with your assignment, because your assignment is going to be to draw a diagram of a skateboarder and label 4 things that skateboarder is wearing. Well, one thing you can include in your diagram are things that skateboarders wear for safety. So it says falls are part of skateboarding. Now, the reason Miss Higgins doesn't skateboard. Helmets, elbow pads, and knee pads help protect skaters. So imagine I drew this picture over here and I was going to label 4 parts. Well, 3 of those could be safety. I could put a line to this and put helmet, a line to his elbow and put elbow pad, a line to his knees and put knee pad. And I'd already have 3 labels. Well, I only need 4 to complete the assignment. Well, you can think about what a skateboarder would normally wear. So one thing that I noticed right away were his shoes, and I thought about shoes and skateboarding. You definitely want to wear something comfortable and something athletic. So I could even just put sneakers on his shoes, so that you can get a good grip on the board and be able to skateboard as comfortably as possible. You wouldn't want to wear high heels to skateboard. That would make it so much harder. So, so here's your assignment. Okay, so think about it. How would you dress to ride a skateboard? When you draw your skateboarder, it can be a girl or a boy, okay? But make it practical. What would a skateboarder typically wear? And what would you wear to be safe on a skateboard? So if you're having trouble coming up with things to put on your skateboarder, safety gear could be something that your skateboarder can be wearing that you could put a label on. So your assignment is to draw a diagram of a skateboarder. Your diagram must include at least 4 labels on things the skateboarder is wearing. Okay, so you're going to draw that picture of a skateboarder on a piece of paper, and you're going to label 4 parts. So you're going to draw a line pointing to 4 parts on your skateboarder and label what those 4 parts are. What 4 things he's wearing. And a little technology today, because you're going to take a photograph of the picture you drew and turn it in for this assignment. And I am going to show you how to turn a photograph in right now. All right, so your first step obviously is to take the photo. Okay, if you have an iPad, you have a camera built into your iPad. Otherwise, if you're using a computer, I would suggest taking the picture with a smartphone that has a camera built into it. Okay, so you have your image. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to turn an image in, a photograph in. I'm going to use my daughter's Google Classroom because she's a student like you are, so it's going to look more like yours. But here's an assignment that my daughter Violet hasn't done yet. Okay, let's imagine that she's going to attach something she drew or something she wrote on paper to this. Okay, so she'd take a photograph of her picture and she's going to click the plus sign, add or create over here under your work. When you click that button, there's a drop down. You're going to select file because that photograph is saved as a file on your device, whether it be your phone or your iPad. Okay, you're going to select file, find your photograph, double tap it. Now your photograph's going to be here. You should see your photograph or a link to your photograph up here after you've done that. And then you just click turn in and your photograph is turned in. So when I go to give you credit for week 4 of library, that's what I'm looking for, is a photograph of the picture you drew with 4 things labeled on your picture. That will be how you get credit for library for this week. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. I think this is a good skill to have, and I'm confident that you'll be able to figure it out. But if you do need help, don't hesitate. I'm here for you. That's my job. So a few words to remember from today. Let's go back to our main purpose. Remember that nonfiction means not made up. So we're talking about true books. When you're reading this week, think about the purpose of the book. Why did the author write that book? What were they trying to do? What were they trying to? Were they trying to teach us something? Were they just trying to make us laugh? Were they trying to make us think? What was their purpose? And also, text features always have a purpose. There's a reason this cover is so brightly colored, and there's a photograph, and there's a fun font for the title. Okay, those are there to make it more interesting for you, to get your attention and make you want to read that book. So, text features are things that nonfiction authors use to help you understand or make it more interesting for you. One text feature is a diagram, and a diagram with labels is supposed to help you visualize what the author's talking about. So that was our lesson for today. I hope you learned something about nonfiction and something about text features, and I really look forward to seeing the diagrams you create. Have a great rest of the week, and I will talk to you soon.